Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. My name is Ian, and I'm joined by Ken, Paul, and Jen is virtual today. She's recorded her answers, so we'll include those videos in our discussion. But today we're going to be talking about Google Ads for beginners, really, and how to get started. So when your prospective customers are looking for your product or your service, chances are high that they will Google it. When they need a dentist near them, they'll Google it. Are they looking for a mechanic in their town? They will Google it. And when they Google it, they'll see organic results as well as paid results. And so today we'll be exploring the topic of Google Ads and how to get started with them. Google Ads are a powerful form of advertising. And even though Google has made big steps to make them more accessible, there are some things you need to understand and areas to avoid. So we will jump in and be your guides in this important topic today. So Ken, let's start off with you. Why are Google Ads such an important form of advertising?
Well, first of all, almost 2/3 of all searches are done on Google. Now you have to weight that against, there are some real strong trends and reporting out there that, younger people are not searching Google. They're searching, especially for local businesses, they're searching TikTok and Instagram now, and YouTube, and those have become the three most preferred search engines for people who I think are probably younger than 25 or 30. But for everybody else, Google is by far the clear winner. And I think the power of Google Ads, and I'm going to talk specifically about search ads because that's why most people run Google Ads, is because people are typing in a search phrase and they're looking for a result set and trying to find a product or a service or a business that they want to do business with. It's like building a super highway right to your business. You get to pick the keywords, you get to pick the location, and then you bid on how much you want to pay to be able to drive that traffic to your website. So I think Google Ads is for the industries that can run them, and not every industry can. But for the industries that can run them, it's one of the very first things I think that every business needs to look at in terms of a lead generation strategy. It's that powerful. It can cost you a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing, and you'll get really frustrated with the results. But it is like I said, it's building a super highway to your website when somebody is doing a search that aligns up with the keywords and the geography that you're targeting. So, Ian, as you said, dentist near me, or dentist, Minnesota, Minneapolis, boom. If you're running keyword or running ads for that keyword phrase in that location, you have a chance to show up at the very top of the page. Your organic search results may not have you on the first page, or if you are on the first page, maybe you're not at the top. So with the exception of Google local services ads, which we may touch upon a little bit, but we're really not going to focus on those today, Google ads show up higher than anything else on the search results page, even above the Google map, and then you've got the organic results. So it gets you prime positioning. The downside is 10 to 20% of people are only going to click on those ads because they recognize them as ads. And in some industries, it's going to be even lower numbers with the click-through rates on those ads. But you're still getting branding. You're still getting a visual trigger. So you also have the opportunity for the Holy Grail. So if you've got an ad in the top three, you're on the Google Maps, and you're high on the organic results, you've got 3 impressions on the homepage. That's a strong signal to people. Hey, this is a legit business. These people know what they're doing. Maybe it's worth me checking them out.
Yeah. And just to clarify something, Ken, the reason Google Ads are so powerful is that you as a searcher are essentially pre-qualifying yourself, whereas other ad platforms are more like targeted billboards, right? Where you're jumping out when somebody is on the platform, even if they're not interested in your product or service. Whereas with Google Ads, you have, because it is a search engine and it's the top search engine, the stats are crazy how much it's used, right? Compared to anything else, even though you were talking about how some younger generations are using a bit of social to find things, it still blows those away, especially from a pre-qualification stance, whereas the other ones don't work in that way. So I think that's an important distinction, because I think that
Yeah.
actually makes Google Ads very powerful in a way that the other ones can't compete.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for me, the key phrase to think about here is intention.
Yeah.
You know, when you can align, and not every Google search ad that you run may need to be intention oriented. I mean, if you've got an education process and the customer journey is long, maybe you need to get some educational content out there. But what I love about intention is you can specifically target keyword phrases that where the user self-qualifies, as you said, their intention to where they're ready to buy. That's where Google Ads are ridiculously powerful.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Hey, Paul, next question's for you. How do Google Ads work? As an advertiser, you have a choice of types of ads you invest in, and we'll start to, dissect kind of the process that people have to go through. But could you explain how they work and the types of ads available?
That question could probably be a podcast in itself.
It could. I think each question probably could be today. This is
Yeah.
kind of an overview, right?
Yeah, so there's basically 9 or 10 different types of ads that you can run, and I won't try to explain every single one, but Ken talked about search ads. So anyone that is familiar with or has done anything with Google Ads in the past is probably familiar with their expanded text ads, which no longer exist. If you have them from like a year ago, they will still run, but you can't change them. You can no longer create them. So what Google has done is they've gone to responsive search ads. So I will explain that a little bit, because that's the most common type. Is you put in, I believe it's 5 headlines and up to 10 or 15 descriptions. I can't think of off the top of my head. And then when someone searches for an ad, Google takes these headlines and these descriptions and they basically generate an ad, responsive search ad. Sounds great. Problem is, if you're not careful about how you organize the headlines and the descriptions, sometimes you can wind up with an ad that does not make a lot of sense, especially when you can start pinning things. You can say, okay, let's say you're running a 10% discount and you want that to show up every time. You can pin that. So you have to be really careful. So, but I'll go explain some of the other ads. You have dynamic search ads, which is basically, I'm not even going to try to explain that. Google basically generates an ad for you. You give Google a little bit of information, they generate an ad for you. Then you have display ads, which it's basically a series of pictures with some text, and that is on Google's display network. And then you have promotional ads, you have video ads, which is just like it sounds. It's a video. You've seen them on YouTube. You create a quick little video, you put some text in there, and Google has actually made it pretty easy to create a video ad. You can even create a video ad from images. You can upload images and Google will create a video ad for you. And then you have shopping ads. You have local search ads. You have call-only ads. And then you have local service ads, not to be confused with local search ads. Local search ads is for driving traffic to a brick and mortar store, whereas the local service ads is what Ken had touched on earlier. Welcome to Google terminology. Make it confusing. And then now they have rolled out the Performance Max ads, which is basically a combination of search, text, or search, display, video, all in one campaign, all in one. the problem with the Performance Max is that, and this is the problem with Google's AI, is that now you make a change to an ad, a campaign, an ad group. Google says, okay, whatever change you make, because everything is AI driven, or that's where they're going. They're saying you have to wait 2 weeks for the system to figure that out and to optimize for it. Performance Max, if you're running a Performance Max campaign, Google says you have to wait 4 weeks. So you make a change to your Performance Max campaign, and now Google's saying, okay, good, now you wait for 4 weeks and let our system figure it out. And in the meantime, you don't know whether or not what you did is good or bad or indifferent. So AI sounds good, and in a lot of ways it is, but in some ways it has actually made things more complicated, and there's a lot of things to consider, and you can waste a lot of money on Google Ads if you're not careful. But that's basically a high level overview of the different types of Google Ads. And like I said, that question could be a podcast in itself, so I won't go into it any deeper than that.
Yeah,
And,
that's awesome.
And you did ask about it's an auction, which I think we kind of touched on that. But you say I want to bid this much, and there's a lot of things that there's quality score. And I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Your landing page and how tight the integration is between your ad and your keywords and where you're driving people, and Google figures out how much you're going to pay for that click. And it's based on a lot of different things, but again, that in itself gets complicated.
But it's a real-time auction.
Yes, it is a real-time auction, which when you think about it is kind of amazing, but every time you do a Google search and an ad pops up, Google in the background is figuring out how much you or your competitors or whoever is going to pay for that click.
Yeah. And that's super important for the listeners to understand, because if you don't understand that aspect and you create kind of unrealistically high cost per actions or budgets or whatever it is, right? You're essentially bloating the auction against your competitors, and you can win almost every time. You can't win every time. Google won't let that happen, but you can create almost a false competitiveness. So you have to be very smart about how you do that. And that's why it's helpful to have, people in your back pocket who do this a lot. But today we're talking about, how you can get started in it. And the next question is for, excuse me, Jen, and she recorded an answer to this, but let me read the question I asked her. Google tries to make things very easy for people, especially to spend money in their ads today. Paul talked about these automated and AI-driven campaign types and ad types. And the reason Google loves those is, first of all, they're trying to maximize your spend. But they're also trying to make it easier, because in the past it was very you basically had to be an expert in order to squeeze out good results from Google Ads.
They're trying to maximize their profit too.
They do. But interestingly enough, when you first set up your Google Ads account now, you'll be presented with a smart campaign option, which will make it super, super easy. It's the right word isn't dumbed down, but it's like a Google Ads for beginners kind of look. But it also takes away a lot of control that you as the business should really have over your Google Ads account. So I asked her, should you choose expert mode? And if so, why? And Jen's going to talk about that in this video.
So the question is, Google tries to make it very easy for people to spend money in ads today. So when you first set up your account, you'll be presented with a smart campaign option. But below that, you can choose a setting called expert mode. Should users choose expert mode? And if so, why? Yes, you should choose expert mode. Even if it's the first time you're setting up your Google Ads, it's the thing that will allow you to have control over what's going on with your ads. The smart mode lets Google be in the driver's seat. And for your own campaign budget, your own goals, you want to make sure that you are setting up the ads the way that is going to fulfill the campaign and the marketing goals that you have. Choose expert. Even if you're not an expert, there is enough information out there that can help you, walk you through step by step. And in fact, we will link in the show notes to some really helpful articles that walk you through this step by step. So expert mode it is, even if you don't feel like you're an expert.
Yeah, and it's absolutely a misnomer that it's called expert mode. Like it's Google trying to, move people in a certain direction, which is beneficial to Google. But even, when Jen said, like, once you go in to expert mode, there's lots of resources. Even in expert mode, Google has gotten better at explaining the process within expert mode. So it's not super technical. You really do just need to follow the process and build out your campaigns and ads.
So Ian, I think back to boosting a post on Facebook versus doing a full-blown ad, through the ad manager on Facebook. Is that how you kind of see the first option as opposed to the expert mode? Kind of Google's equivalent to that?
Yeah, I mean, Google does give you some goals when you're in smart campaign mode. Like it'll say things like get more calls, get more website visits or signups, get more visits to your physical location, get more brand awareness through video views, like that kind of stuff. So it's trying to make it super simple for people to spend money on Google Ads. But as Jen said, it takes away control, right? So anybody who's been in any of these platforms, yeah, it's similar to that boosting of the ads where, if you had done that, you would have realized, wow, there's a lot of things that I can't target within a boosted ad in Facebook that I could do if I just actually placed the ad in a more manual way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing on smart campaigns is you have topics more so than you have keywords. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ken was asking about the difference between Facebook boosted posts as opposed to an ad. I wouldn't be surprised if Google started pushing that even in what they call expert mode, because that's the direction they're going with everything, even organic search.
Yeah, agreed. Because they're trying to what Ken said was Google Ads is when you align your keywords with intent, you will be able to pull in more qualified buyers to your ads, right? And Google's trying to do that through organic search, just like what you said, Paul. And yeah, for sure, they're trying to do that through ads because even though they're different engines, they're all based on similar philosophies. So for sure. Ken, next question's for you. Google offers quite a few different types of campaigns. And I know Paul talked a little bit about that, but can you provide a brief overview of what types of ads you can run, what type you should, a first-time advertiser should probably start with?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's an easy answer. Really, 90% of people want leads, well-qualified leads. And so search ads are going to win. If you've got the ability to do local search ads, again, we're not talking about that today, but that's another strong consideration. But if you're, Google search ads are pay-per-click. So you only pay when they're clicked. And so whereas the local services ads work a little bit different from a lead generation perspective. So if you're really trying to get people, first of all, you need to look at the objectives.
Yeah.
What do you want to accomplish? And Google's going to guide you through that process to kind of help you figure that out. If you're looking for leads, search ads. If you're looking for traffic, then you've got other options. Display ads can be a great source of low cost traffic to your website. But it may be great for awareness, but it's not, and maybe the top of the funnel, but not toward the bottom of the funnel where people are really starting to make a decision of making a purchase. So you want to think about that. If people are looking for educational content, video ads can be fantastic. So if you've got a new product that's really a game changer and a paradigm shift in the marketplace, maybe spending some money on video ads is going to get you some of the traffic, because it may be really hard for you to compete with the search ads with everybody else that's already out there, because nobody knows how to describe the intention that your product or service can uniquely offer, um, because they just don't know, and so they're going to naturally go toward those things that they're more comfortable and understand and already know. So you really just have to think about the objectives of what you're trying to accomplish. If you've got an e-commerce store, you can run Google shopping ads. So if that's really why you're advertising, and you have an online store and that's really the focus of what you do, then shopping ads is going to be worth consideration. If you've built an app, and people, you want to drive people who are searching to download an app, you can run ads specifically for apps. Paul talked about local, so if you're a brick and mortar, you can run local ads as opposed to the local services ads. So it all comes down to objective. I think for most of our viewers and listeners, it's probably going to come down to search ads or shopping ads, depending on the nature of their business. Um, Obviously, when you think about the awareness level ads versus the intention focused ads, you're gonna, first of all, you have an opportunity to get a lot more traffic at the awareness level, but that's because people aren't ready to buy, so they haven't pre-qualified themselves, as Ian mentioned earlier. But for that, display ads, could be a great option. Well, they're going to be considerably cheaper to run than a search ad, because a search ad is targeting people at those life events where they are ready to make that purchase. If you blow out a tire along the side of the road and you need to buy new tires, when you do a search, what you're searching for is probably, tire repair near me, or new tires near me, or something like that. You're telling the search engine, I am in buying mode. I need help. Well, search ads are going to dominate for that. And that's the kind of thing where people are going to go to a place of business. There are, obviously there is the ability to buy tires online, but so I don't think a shopping ad is really appropriate for that example, because it's an urgent need. Somebody needs to get it purchased and installed on their vehicle right away. So yeah, it comes down to the objectives. Video ads can be a great way for relatively cheap awareness and education, moving people through their buyer's journey, through the marketing hourglass, as we like to talk about here, from the top point that they know, like, and trust you. Video and display ads can really be very, very helpful there when you're getting to, where somebody is ready to try or buy. That's where I think the search ads kick in. So I think it's just a matter of, plot your course. Obviously it's all going to be, coming down to your budget and the competition levels. It may be so competitive to win, in a search ad that you might have to look at doing something different, or you may not even have the option. I will say one other thing too about search ads is you can turn them on and off. So for a lot of businesses, if you're just getting started and you need those qualified leads coming in, and then you get your book of business filled up for a while. If you're a roofer, you've got a month's worth of work lined up. You can turn it on and off as you want. So that's a really nice feature. So yeah, I think that's probably covers most of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's good, Ken.
It,
One of the ways that I've tried to simplify this, both in my own eyes as well as in the eyes of my clients that I work with, is kind of this layering effect. For any service-based business, like what you were saying, search ads is kind of the foundation of where they should be, because first of all, that will attract the qualified buyers. It will also augment your SEO efforts.
Right.
And if you combine your Google ads with your SEO efforts, there's a lot of learning that crosses over between those related to keywords, how people search, the content they're interested in.
What do we call
That's a
that?
whole other. What do you call it?
Force multiplier.
Force multiplier. There we yes. And then usually when clients they're ready for more, almost always we put in display retargeting ads, right, which is only focused on people that have been to your site, so you're reinforcing. But
Right.
yeah, then you can start to layer on some other types of campaigns where you're reaching a broader audience over time. But yeah, search is always where we start for service-based businesses, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I just want to make one point about the display ads. There are really two uses of those. One is to just get your information out there on websites that you know your likely customers are probably already visiting, and so you can target based on, you know, sociographics and psychographics and things like that. Remarketing ads, like you said, these are display ads, but they're going to show up only, you know, when people have hit your website, and you can control whether it's just a general display ad where you're targeting it on specific websites, or, you know, based on the, you know, the you know, the topics and whatnot, or because, you know, they're only going to see that ad because they've hit your website. Retargeting is huge. I mean, 4% on average of all websites across the web, uh, when people visit, they're ready to buy. So 96% of the time, they're just hitting your website looking for information. So remarketing ads is a really good insurance policy, and a cheap insurance policy, to kind of help make sure that you are still there when they're ready to, you know, to make the buying decision.
Yeah.
and you know, if you have an expensive product or a long sales cycle, video ads can, and Ken kind of talked about this, video ads and display ads, but video ads in particular can be really good, because if you're asking someone to spend $30,000-$40,000 on a product, there's going to be some education involved in that, and that's where video ads can really help.
Yeah. 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 And just to clarify one other point, because Google makes it a little bit confusing for people because there's local service ads, local search ads, any advertising you as a business do on Google's platforms, you can target by geography. So your display ads are only showing to people in a particular geography, because for most local businesses, you don't want to target the next state, the next province, whatever. And you can really zone in and just say, I want to target this radius around my location, or I want to target these particular cities. You can do all sorts of targeting with any of them. So even with regular search ads, you can do that. So I think I just wanted to clarify that, because it is a little bit confusing for people where they think, oh, I'm a local business, I have to use this type of ad, and that's not true. Paul, when setting up an advertising campaign in Google Ads, you'll have to choose your ad networks, your schedule, your location. Can you talk a bit about the ad networks you can choose and how you can target by location? Sorry, I gave away some of the information there, but I was just teasing people with it.
Yeah, that's fine. So when you set up your ad, at first, let me talk about the structure, I guess. First, you have you have a campaign. Well, you have your ad accountant, and then you have your campaign, and then you have your ad groups, and then you have your ads. And I'm not going to go into that too much, but the campaign name, you can call it whatever you want, but the idea with a campaign, there's a lot of things that have to be set at the campaign level. So, like for instance, your budget. Okay, so let's say you're advertising in two different areas that are completely different. One of them has relatively high cost per click and one that has a low cost per click. You may want to separate those into two different campaigns. Okay. So as far as the networks, you have the Google partner networks, you have the display network, and when you go to set up your ads, you're going to well, maybe I should talk about the campaign types. So search, display, video shopping app. We kind of talked about that already. So then when you Google will say they want you, when you set up your campaign, even in expert mode, they want you, they'll automatically select the display network for you. You should always uncheck that. You should keep your search campaign separate from your display campaigns. And Google wants to put all that together, but that causes issues because it can cause, you don't know where a lot of your traffic is really coming from. There's ways to dissect it, but it's just much easier and much better to keep your display and your search separate. And then you set your ad schedule, and that's something we haven't even talked about. Is that we talked about being able to target based on geography, but you can set your ad schedule. Say, okay, I don't want to run ads. I'm running a local ad, and I'm driving traffic to my brick and mortar location. Probably don't want to run ads at 11 o'clock at night if you're not open at 11 o'clock at night. So you can set your ad schedule, and you can set it by down to the half hour. Really, is it I want to run ads from 8 in the morning till 10:30 in the morning, and then I don't want to run ads from 10:30 to 12:30 because experience has shown us running ads in the past that, and this is where you have to get data, that people just, for some reason, whatever product services that I'm selling, people don't click on it. We get no clicks during that time. So I'm not even going to show my ads during that time. And that's really important to know. I'm trying not to go down in the weeds here too much because I have a tendency to do that.
Just a question on that. So as a new person getting started in Google Ads, could they just leave the schedule open for a month or so and then look at the data? Would there be enough data within Google Ads that they could then say, okay, this is where we spent most of our money from a timing perspective, and here's where we got most of our clicks, so we want to then compress the schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. You should always start. Well, I wouldn't say you should start 24 hours. You can start running ads like 24 hours a day, but then look at that after a couple of weeks, because people maybe people work second shift, and maybe they are up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're looking for something legitimate, as opposed to something else. But you have to get data, and that's one of the unfortunate things. If you're just starting out with an ad campaign, is that you can't optimize until you have data. So you almost have to run your ads almost 24, maybe not 24 hours a day, but almost 24 hours a day. So you can go back after a couple of weeks and say, okay, I'm not getting any clicks at this point, or the clicks I'm getting at this time of day don't result in anything. So I'm not going to run my ads during these times of the day or these times of the night. But we always talk about data, and you have to get that first.
As a matter of fact, I'm just going to blatantly say this. If you're not committed to a budget that makes sense to get the data you need to make good decisions about your Google Ads for at least 3 months, save your money. It will be a frustrating experience for you. You cannot optimize a typical Google ad campaign without data, and to get that data, and Google rewards you if you keep reinvesting in improving your ads and the way things are operating. So, you do want to start a little bit broad in terms of, maybe putting in some keywords that maybe are not as strong intention oriented, just to see what you're getting. Because if you start too narrow, you're not going to get any results, and then you're going to get frustrated and say, well, Google ads don't work either. So you really, I think, be prepared to spend a little bit of money, knowing the first month you're going to be throwing some money away in terms of ad clicks, but you're going to learn a lot. You should be learning a lot about the performance of your campaign over time. And if you're not, that's why you need to think of running it at least 3 months. If you're not prepared to do that, I think you should save your money.
And as a mindset shift, I wouldn't say you're throwing your money away. You're investing it in research that's going to help you get more money back, right?
Yeah, true.
And I know that's
a lot of people are going to feel like they're throwing money away. But
Right,
you're exactly right. It's an investment, because you should be learning. And the typical person, here's the reality. What we've already talked about today, so far in this little over half an hour, I think it says that this is a little bit more complicated. Even if you can go in and try and do this yourself, and there's a lot of guides or a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of stuff here. And if you don't have the time to continue to reinvest it, look, it's one thing to launch a campaign. It's a whole other beast to optimize it. And if you're not doing the optimization work, you're leaving money on the table, and you are wasting money. You're not investing money. You're wasting money at that point in time.
Yeah.
And a couple other things is, we talk about bottom of the funnel and search intent, and a lot of times someone may type in a search query with strong search intent, but that doesn't always mean they're going to click on your ad and convert. Sometimes they may be at the bottom of that funnel, but they're trying to decide between you and 2 or 3 other companies. So they may click on your ad and get a little more information. Then they'll go click on somebody else's ad, and then they'll go to another website, and then they'll come back. And if they decide that you're the one that they want to do business with, then they'll come back. But one thing I didn't talk about earlier is, and we've touched on this, is, or I think Ian did, is the location. Specify your location, because by default, when you set up your ad, Google defaults to the United States. Well, if you're a local business, let's say you're a plumber in New Jersey, you probably don't want to advertise in Nevada. So,
Alaska.
Yeah, or Alaska. That would be a long drive to fix a sink. So choose your location, and choose your language. There's some misunderstanding there. It's generally Google's going to pick up on the location set, or the language set in the browser. So you may be targeting a demographic that speak Spanish, but they also speak fluent English, and their browser is set to English. So you would want to make sure that you choose Spanish as well. So it's a little confusing how that works, but just something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. The next question's for Jen, and she's got a recording, I think, for this one. Is that right, Ken?
That's correct.
All right. So the next step is to set up a daily budget, and Paul alluded to the budget and the importance of it, and to also choose your bidding strategy. So Jen's going to talk a little bit about that in this video.
So bidding strategies and daily budgets and all that kind of stuff, these are things that you're going to come across as you start to do this type of advertising. So what they mean by daily budget is, so your campaign is going to run for a certain period of time. So it's going to run 2 weeks, it's going to run 30 days, whatever period of time it's going to run. You're going to have a certain amount of money to spend in that period of time. The way Google breaks it down is, what do you want to, or what is your daily budget in there? So if you're running something for 15 days, Google wants to know what what is your budget every single day? So one way to do it is to take the 15 days, split it by however much your budget is, and that's your daily budget. The thing is, when you're doing this type of advertising, your daily budget isn't exactly your daily budget. And I know that sounds so awful, doesn't it? But for example, say just to pick a number out of the air, say your daily budget is $10 a day. Please be prepared to see in the data that sometimes you're spending $12 a day, sometimes you're spending $8 a day. It's going to fluctuate based on what's happening in the market. And at the end of your campaign period, you will spend your campaign budget. It's just that it's a little misleading because they ask for a daily budget. So if you set one, you would think we're not going over our daily budget, but you actually are. So that's one thing you have to understand with daily budget. Think about, okay, so if it's $10 and it goes to 12 and it goes down to 8 and it's going to average out to 10, that's fine. How comfortable do I feel with that? If it's going to go to 12, do I just set it at 12? And then, because it'll go up and it'll go down based on whatever it is that you have set it at. So understand that. I know that's a little bit different about other things that we spend money on. Usually it's the exact amount of money, right? The other thing to realize is there are different types of bidding. So you can set, so there's two different terms that you might be new to if you're new to this. One is called manual bidding, and the other one is called automated bidding. So the manual bidding is that's where you're like, okay, it's $10 a day. Here's my parameters, and here's how much money I'm spending. And even with that in there, there's some fluctuation. The automated bidding is that in this case, you would let Google determine the maximum amount that you're bidding for a certain period of time. You could do that for your whole campaign. You could do that for a portion of your campaign until you get the feel of how successful your campaign is, or what is the actual amount of money that you should be spending for the maximum effectiveness of your campaigns. So again, we can link to some really excellent information in the show notes about that, but that is something that you'll have to get used to as you get into this type of advertising.
Yeah, and not to belabor the point, but that difference between most people think in a monthly budget mindset. So that's an important thing to make sure that you're reading it carefully, that this is daily budget. So don't think you're putting in your monthly budget when it's really the daily, because then you'd blow your budget in one day. So,
Yeah,
which is very easy to do.
Yeah, Google is driving everything towards AI. Manual bidding almost doesn't exist at this point. Everything, even if you're maximizing for conversions, you can say, I don't want to spend more than this in a day. But if Google thinks someone is more likely to convert, like Jen said, that they may spend up to 30% more of your daily budget per day, but they won't exceed whatever your daily budget works out to in a month. They won't exceed that, or so they say. I have seen them exceed that. Not by a lot, but
yeah,
it does happen.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it becomes pretty standard process that when you're reporting on it, you just say there's fluctuations, right?
Right.
Ken, next question's for you. Excuse me. Search campaigns rely on you choosing the best keywords to attract qualified buyers. Can you explain what keywords are, how they work, and some tips in selecting keywords?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we probably already talked quite a bit about the whole keyword concept, but you can choose the keyword phrase, and then we'll talk here in just a minute about the different types of keywords that Google gives you in terms of triggering when your ads may or may not run. But I think it's really important here to talk about you need alignment. You don't want to, and this goes back to the campaign structure that Paul was talking about. You don't want to put very diverse keyword phrases into the same ad set, maybe not even the same campaign. campaign could be a different choice, but it's certainly not the ad set, because you want tight alignment. You want that keyword phrase and the cluster of keywords that are semantically similar to all be together in the same ad group, because what your ad, the headline says, the ad copy, the landing page, uh, you need to have super tight alignment there. And it needs to align with the keywords that you're choosing to run your ads for. So if are running an ad in the same ad group, you've got, the fastest boat, for lakes, and then you have top trailer for, for pulling a boat. Um, those are not the same keyword phrase. So you're automatically going to start costing yourself unnecessary money, because you're probably going to get a horrible quality score at the end of the day, because how can you run an ad where the ad headline, the ad copy, and the landing page experience that you send people to all line up and drive conversions? So you definitely want to think about, I kind of refer to it as keyword clusters, but think about some semantically similar keyword phrases. So house painter, residential painter, those are in close alignment. So you can probably put those in the same. You want to think clearly about the intent. You want to align the ad and the ad copy and the ad headline and the landing page experience. You want that to all line up with the intent of why people are clicking on your ad in the first place. So if you're focused on getting people to make a purchase, and that's really what you're trying to make happen, use keywords that convey that, or where the better yet, the searcher kind of self-identifies that they're ready to buy. If you're doing local, put in the location. Divorce attorney, Henderson, Nevada, for example, if that's what you want to show up for, as opposed to just divorce attorney. I mean, even though you've got the geographic settings, the location-based keywords can definitely help. You can also set negative keywords which prevent your ads from being displayed. So,
and I think that's what Paul's going to talk about next, Ken.
Oh, okay, all right. So I won't get into that, but that's something else that you need to think about. You don't want to, there are planning tools that can help you select the keyword phrases. Google provides a really good one inside the platform itself, but there are others that you can use. And I think, just think about trying to keep things well aligned, because at the end of the day, Google's trying to deliver the highest quality experience for the person who is doing the search. And if Google wants to maintain the dominance that it has in search ads, and therefore if your campaigns aren't well organized, aligned with buyer intent, or search intent, where maybe they're literally just looking for information, and that's what you choose to run your ads for, is to help people find information, not make a purchase. You want that alignment to be really strong, and keywords are the way to do that.
Yeah. And Ken, quick question. So you you gave really good information there. I think one of the questions I would ask you to maybe unpack a little bit, mindful of our time, right? We're trying to get through a lot here, but
Right.
So when people are choosing their keywords, there's a whole science behind this, right? Or a process that in order to do it well, businesses should probably approach it. And that's where SEO experts can come in and pay-per-click experts. But what advice do you have for a small business in, like, are there tools? Is there kind of a simple process they should take to choose their initial keywords to get things started?
Well, I mean, Google gives you the keyword planning tool inside, and I mean, honestly, I use it quite a bit, even for SEO research, just because it groups words together that it sees. And look, if Google thinks that a keyword grouping makes sense, then maybe that makes sense for you, especially if you're not very experienced running Google Ads. Follow what Google has already organized in terms of related keyword phrases, but go through, don't select all of them. You need to scan through them and look at them, and you can select only the ones that you want. You might want to look at search volumes. So where there is search volume data available for your market, you might use that to decide, am I going to spend my money running ads on House Painter or Residential Painter, because I only have a certain amount of budget. And I think here's another important point, which we need to make sure we cover, and that's in regard to the budget. And tell me if I'm stepping on somebody else's answer here. But when you put together your budget, you need to allow yourself to have the opportunity to have your ad displayed during the timeframes that you've specified. So if you're saying, I want to advertise 24/7 all 31 days of the month, and you set your ad budget at $10 a day, and the typical cost per click is $9 a day, or $9 per click, I should say. You're going to run out of ad budget very fast, and you're going to have long periods of time during the day, many days, where your ad may not be displayed, and that's not a good thing either. So you need to right size your budget. And if you don't have the budget to support that range of hours, narrow it down so that you're going to get the best bang for the buck, where you think your ideal clients are going to be most likely to be doing these searches, and dial in the timeframes there. So
Great point.
yeah. So I think, having said all of that, look at the tools, look at the search volumes, look at the competition levels, because some keyword phrases, even though they are the most lucrative, they are also the most expensive because they're most competitive. And you may be able to pick off enough business at half the budget if you just targeted the second level of keyword phrases, but they still convey that strong buyer intent. That may be all you need.
Yeah. Awesome points.
One thing I'd add real quick, and I know we're trying to get through a lot here. Ken talked about Google's
always
keyword,
do part two.
Google's keyword planner and the way they group keywords. Be aware that there is a huge disconnect between the keyword groupings that Google suggests and the tight alignment they expect between your ads, your keywords, and your landing page. So when you look at that keyword grouping, you might want to decide that that's two different ad groups.
Yeah, and when you're working on like, this is what we do for our clients. Like, once we launch a campaign, we're in there all the time and we're looking at what's happening, right? And then you can start to split apart campaigns. You can, like, there's so much you can do in order to optimize it and and raise quality scores and all that kind of stuff.
Why do you want to raise quality score?
What's that?
Why do you want to raise quality score?
I think we get into that. I don't know if we get. Well, we talk about measurement a little bit.
All right.
Although, do you have another video for Jen after this?
I do have one video for Jen, and it is on measurement.
Okay, perfect. So let's, Paul, the next question's for you, and Ken alluded to this. Negative keywords. Can you talk a little bit about those and why they're so important?
Yeah, it's keywords that you want to make sure do not cause your ad to be shown. A couple common ones are cheap or free. Cheap pipe repair near me. If you're a plumber, okay, you probably don't want that phrase to trigger your ad. I guess a good example, a way to help explain it, we have a client in the Henderson, Las Vegas area. It's a divorce attorney. And I noticed when I was in there looking at the search terms, not the keyword, the search terms that people type in, there were search terms in there, and I had the location and targeting and everything set. And I won't get into how that works. You also want to exclude locations. That's another topic. But there were a lot of keywords in there for divorce attorney California. So my assumption is that they lived in California and they were sitting in Las Vegas to get away from whoever they were divorcing. And so they were searching for an attorney in California, but because they were in Las Vegas, Google picked up on the fact that they were from the IP address that they were in Las Vegas, and because it was set people in this location to trigger the ad. That's another setting when you're setting up your campaign. So I went in there and basically any keyword that was not Las Vegas, Henderson, Summer, the areas he wanted to be in, like California, Los Angeles, CA, any of the major cities, pretty much every state that they might be searching, I set them as negative keywords so that divorce attorney California wouldn't cause an ad to be triggered. Divorce attorney Phoenix wouldn't cause, because that way, because you're in a major vacation spot, Las Vegas, so people may be sitting there and they're looking for something that can cause your ad to be triggered. So, but again, that's something I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been in there looking at these things. And that goes back to optimization, getting data and optimizing.
Or there could be a correlation that because they're in Las Vegas, they now need a divorce attorney.
True. I wasn't
Not
gonna
laughing
say
at the
anything.
situation.
Yeah.
One of the questions I think we haven't really covered this, but match types. Anybody want to kind of explain? There's three main match types, but anyone want to go through and explain them? Exact, phrase, and broad. How those act differently?
That's not a question for anyone.
It was.
So, all right, match types. Well, yeah, you used to have modified broad, not anymore. So, phrase match. Okay, so broad match. The problem with broad match is that no matter what they type in, if those words are in there in any order, in any way, shape, or form, it can cause your ad to be triggered. So, red tennis shoes.
Yeah.
For instance, okay, no matter what they type in, if the word red and the word tennis shoes is in there, or shoes, it can cause your ad to be triggered. Now, Google claims, and this is something relatively new, they want you to use broad match, and they claim that their AI can determine intent. Well, that's true to a point. If once you have some data and conversions, there's probably some truth to that, but you never want to start with broad match. So phrase match means whatever phrase they type in, like hot water heater repair, that has to be in that order, but they can add anything to the beginning or end, and that can cause your ad to be triggered. Like hot water repair, if that's a phrase match, hot water repair near me can cause your ad to be triggered. Or, St. Louis hot water repair can cause that.
And in that case, your keyword phrase is hot water repair.
Yes. Or, hot water heater, whatever. So whatever your phrase match is, anything appended to the beginning or the end can cause your ad to be triggered.
And just to reiterate a little bit more about that, it can reorder those words too, right? Like if you say red tennis shoes, it can actually find tennis shoes red. Like it doesn't always keep them in order. It just has to include all of the words and try to retain the meaning as well.
Yes, and that's something more recent that it used to be that phrase match meant this, and that's where I was going into with exact match. You would think exact match means that my ad should, if I type in, broken pipe repair, then if that's an exact match, that's what they have to type in order for my ad to show. Well, Google has decided that they know better. And if something is close to that, even though it's exact match, they may very well show your ad. So even though we have these match types, they're not what they used to be because, Google has decided they know better.
Yeah, no, and that's a great explanation, Paul. Ken, I just wanted to double check. We're on the top of the hour.
Yeah.
We do have 3 other questions related to how to build out the ads. Even where you're sending people from the ad, the landing page, as well as measurement. Do you think we should spin this off as another topic, or should we just keep going?
I think we could probably wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll save this as a part 2. Is that what you mean?
I wasn't very clear in my answer. I meant that I did actually mean, I think we can finish up the questions that you had.
Perfect. I would love to do that because it's nice to keep it all in one topic.
Right. Sorry. So see, there's an example where if you're not clear in your language, you're going to get a result that doesn't align with what your expectations were.
That's right.
And that's exactly the same way that Google Ads are going to work with the keyword match types that we're talking about.
The power of unexpected consequences. All right. So Ken, now we're ready to build an actual ad that people will see when your ad pops up. What elements are most important in an ad, and what tips do you have for the listeners, viewers, when building out an ad?
Yeah, well, Paul talked about, the responsive search ads and how those have changed. I mean, you really want to focus on the headline. I mean, the headline is absolutely critical, just as it is in a blog post, just as it is in a newspaper article. Headlines are what get people's attention and draw their eye, and have probably the heaviest weight in terms of influencing whether people are going to click or not. So having said that, your headline, and Paul talked about the ability to anchor. So if you're running a special, you might want to anchor 10% off or whatever your offer is. Or you may not. It just, you may want to get data to figure out, is my offer really driving the results and the interest that I thought it might? And you might want to have a bigger variety than forcing, the offer to be displayed all the time. But the headline's critical. The description is also still very important because it needs to describe in a little bit more detail what the headline promises, because that's where you have the opportunity to get people, to say, okay, well, this sounds really interesting. Why? And that's where you can kind of answer the why and move people, through. So I mean, we are kind of butting up on time. I think those are probably the 2 biggest things that jump out at me. We've talked already about the responsive search ad. So Google is going to dynamically build a lot of these from for the information that you put in. And Paul has already addressed that.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, just to try to allay some people's fears, when we talked about expert mode being kind of a soft expert mode, like even when you're building out the actual ad now, like Google walks you through the steps, and it will actually have like this ad strength gauge that will tell you, hey, my headlines are a little weak, my descriptions are a little weak, that kind of stuff. So they've built in some nice features now into there that help you build out a better ad. Yeah.
And if you want people to take a specific action, put that in the description or the headline if you've got room for it. Best practice, you don't always want to max out, the full length of your headline. You want to, vary that up a little bit. But if you want somebody to call now, put that in. Don't assume people are going to take a call to action. Make it crystal clear what you want people to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And Paul, many advertisers are so happy they get their ad campaign running that they fail to consider the importance of where they're actually sending people. So especially people new to any kind of online advertising, not just Google ads, but they send them to their homepage instead of building out a landing page. But can you share why that's so critical and where you're sending people, why it's so critical to the success of your ad campaign?
Yeah, because sending them to your homepage, well, your homepage is it's like the front door to your website, so to speak. So let's say you're a painter and you're running ads for interior painting, but on your homepage you have interior painting, you have exterior painting, you have cabinet painting,
Commercial painting.
yeah, commercial painting. Well, the more work they have to do, the less likely they are to convert. And so you want the landing page has to be aligned with, and we've talked about this a little bit, with the ads, the keywords. If you're running ads for commercial painting, then you need to send them to a landing page that is about commercial painting, period. Not anything else. If you're running ads for interior painting, then you want to send them to a landing page that talks about interior painting, not exterior painting, because it's two different things. But the other thing on your landing page is you need to have your call to action. I think Ken mentioned this. You have, whether it's, your form, phone number, call now. I'm not a big fan of having a button that they click and that takes them to another page with the form on it. You see that a lot. I think the form should be on that same page. Now, if you want a jump link, because if you have your form near the bottom and you have, contact us for more information, they click on that and it jumps down the page and there's the form. That's okay. But
the form should be at the top anyway.
Well, I like to put the form at the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's actually two different and the reason I do that, it's even two different forms, because that way I can go in and look at which one they filled out. Do they fill out the form at the top, or do they go down to the bottom? I was running can't remember who it is off the top of my head. One of our clients we're running some ads for, and I actually had the form in 3 different places, and it was 3 different forms. The only one that really ever got filled out was the one in the middle. So I took the one off the top and I took the one off the bottom because nobody filled them out. The only form that got filled out was the one in the middle. But that goes back to testing and optimizing and getting data.
And Paul, so there's the people that are coming to your ad. They click on it. They go to the landing page. That's one of the reasons why it's so important. Maybe talk a little bit about why it's important from Google Ads perspective and how it can actually cost you more money if your landing page doesn't resonate with your ad campaign.
Well, yeah, if like I said, if you're running ads for interior painting and you're just sending them to your homepage, well, there's going to be a disconnect there, and you can actually pay more per click. It goes back to quality score, which we're at an hour and 8 minutes. I'm not going to go into quality score in any depth, but it can actually cost you more money. And real quick, one other thing is, let's say you have let's say you're using interior painting. You probably have a page on your website for interior painting. And why would I want a landing page for interior? Why not just send them to that interior painting? Well, it makes your tracking easier in AdWords, because now you can, how do you know if you look at your analytics and you had, 500 people that month go to your interior painting page on your website, if you're also using ads to drive people to that page, it makes it very difficult to figure out which is organic and which is paid. But if you're sending them to a landing page, which should be no index, by the way, something else I won't get into, but now you have a pretty good idea, because that's not going to show up in search results. At least it shouldn't. Now you have a pretty good idea that everyone that landed on that page got there from an ad. It just makes your conversion tracking easier. It doesn't make it flawless or perfect, but it does make it easier.
Well, also a landing page typically is different than a regular page in the sense that you remove the top and bottom navigation because you want people to convert. That's the whole reason you're sending them to that page. And Google wants to measure that in some way, whether they stayed on that page for a while, whether they, did they fill out the form? Did they take that action that you wanted? It's just the absolute best way to measure that. And also to let Google very clearly see that those things are happening.
Yeah. So in short, the landing page is vital because the people care about it. It affects them, and Google cares about it as well, and it affects ultimately what you pay for your ads.
Yes.
Which leads very nicely because that is a part of measurement. The next question was for Jen, and she did a recording for us, but it's on why measurement is important and some key things you need to watch as an advertiser to make sure you get them.
So when it comes to reporting and measuring, so important. Don't skip this. This is essentially your report card on how the campaign went. Basically, what did I spend? What did I get for my spend? The data can go much deeper than that, obviously, but essentially that's what you want to know, right? So you don't have to make it super, super complicated to start out with. What did we spend? What did we expect to get? Did we get it? Did we spend $1,000 and expect 100 people to come to the website? Did we spend that? How did it go with our bidding? And what was our traffic like? So we can dive into much, much more than that. But essentially, just to start out with, if you're new to this advertising, this way of advertising with Google, it's really, in a nutshell, what did I spend? What did I get? So there's more detail that you need to include in your reporting, whether it's to your boss or to your client. But understand that you have to report on your campaign goal. So what was the whole point of doing this campaign? Did we achieve our goal? Yes, no. I'm just looking at, there's so much more here. You can, as you get into it. I mean, here's the thing too, as I look down on all these items that we can include in a report. If you're just starting out with your advertising on Google, you have to understand that you're going to have to form a benchmark. You're going to have to start from somewhere. Your first month, your first campaign, you have nothing to compare it to. Your second month, the second campaign, you have something to compare it to. But even take that with a grain of salt, because you have to understand, is your product or your service, the demand for your product or service, is it affected by seasonality? Is it affected by what's going on in the media? Is it affected by what's going on politically? Like, are there things that do affect the demand for your product or service? If you come from the retail background, you'll notice that any of the retail reporting, not necessarily on Google, but typically in retail reporting, you have daily reports, and they'll talk about same store sales. So this same store, the last year on this same day, what was happening? And even in those kind of reportings, there would be talk about, okay, what was the weather like? Was there a massive snowstorm that kept people away? So that kind of thing online still can happen. So just remember, as you get into tracking and reporting on your metrics for your Google ads, before you even sit down to start with your reporting, just remember, what were the goals for this campaign? Why did we go about spending our money? And did we get that result? So that can be a one-sentence report. We spent $1,000. We hope to get 100 people to our website, and we got 500 people to our website. Okay, great. What a success that was. Excellent. Now we can start to dig into it. But if you're new to this, just keep in mind that really it is, what do we spend? What do we hope to get? And did we get it? Again, we'll link to some excellent stuff in the show notes that will help you formulate more sophisticated reports for your Google Ads.
That was a great explanation. And I loved how she kept it super, super simple and always tied it back to the goals.
Yeah.
I think we could probably have a whole other podcast on measurement, right? Because there are some key things that, we do with our clients to help always create as close a connection to the sale as possible from whatever channel we're doing the marketing for, because that helps to prove return on investment. And I'm sure you guys have thoughts on that as well. But is this a good place to tie it up?
I would just like to add a couple of really quick things. One is I think looking at the top ad placement. Are you consistently getting your ad displayed in the top 3? I think that's a big metric, because otherwise you're not getting the opportunity that you might think you should be getting.
Yeah.
And I also think the other one just went out of my mind. Anyway, it might pop up before we leave. But I think the key thing is just looking at the performance of the campaign. There's so many different things that you can dig into, and again, this is most of the reporting at a more sophisticated level is really going to help you from an optimization perspective. So what Jen talked about is great. When you're first getting started, really think about the objectives. Did I get the traffic that I want? Did I get the conversions that I wanted? And really kind of look at those things based on what you were spending. But there's so much data here that and the last thing I do want to say is make sure, if you're doing SEO, take the knowledge that you're getting, because you might find a golden keyword that you had no clue about that's triggering a lot of strong Google ad activity that you might want to incorporate into your SEO strategy. And 90% of the people that we have ever worked with who've had Google ads done for them in the past, probably even higher than that, they were paying for all this great data and research, and nobody was taking it and using it and rolling it into the SEO strategy. Ian, I know you do that too. So I think that's the force multiplier. That's one of the force multipliers.
Yeah. Anything else? Those are great points, Ken. Anything else from your side, Paul?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, this could have been 2 or 3 podcasts. There's a lot of things we kind of skimmed over, but and we're already almost an hour and a half, and there's still things we didn't touch on.
I know, and we're all missing our spa appointments, so we should probably wrap it up here, guys. Thank you for joining us for this important topic. I hope you were able to get a lot out of this. My last piece of advice is start. Just do it. Set a budget. Follow the advice given here. Learn from it and grow. And you will learn so much through this process that, as Ken said, you'll be able to apply in a lot of different areas. So until next week, keep calm and mark it on.